Okay, this is Allen Freeman, and this is Dr. Peepers' drawing that I did. Here you go. This is my first time trying to record me drawing or inking or anything of that nature, so bear with me. Anyway, I'm inking this in with the Series 7 Winsor Newton number 2, which is some brush that I've used for years. To be honest, I haven't drawn much in the last 17 years. I did one other Dr. Peepers. We're doing a magazine-sized comic book of Dr. Peepers. Dean Lacrone and a few other people. Dan Burke. We even have a piece from Victoria Bearden of Dr. Peepers. So I've got Dr. Peepers here jumping away from something. I haven't decided yet what he's jumping away from. This is a Driggin, his bird on his back. He's half rabbit and half dragon. So let's get into it. So I'm not sure what I'm going to be saying while you're watching this inking proceed. And I didn't think to record my penciling sketch, but I will give something away right here. Since I'm getting back into drawing and eventually painting, whatnot, inking, I wasn't sure what pose I wanted to do. And so for a quick start, I went through a few online on my phone images of, here's Deadpool, and he's jumping out of a window. But as you can see, I pretty much only used the rough outline or idea and then made it all Dr. Peepers. So very little of it is still, you could tell, just mainly the way the foot is up and the arm is up, and I changed the gun. So I pretty much changed everything except the idea that he's jumping. Okay, and I'm just using this now to keep the tip of my brush sharp. Okay, so I'm using, what am I using? Let's see. It's some kind of Japanese ink here. Upper super black. That's what it says, super black. Okay. That's all I can help give you at this moment. But I'm going to be experimenting with a lot of different pens too. And I actually used, I have these Faber-Castells. Some of them have a little point, like a brush. So if you don't want to spill ink and make a big mess, and you're not used to dipping your brush in and working that way, you can use these. Now, the only problem here is that they tend to wear out. So, first of all, I try to be careful. I don't use them for filling in any big solid areas, but I could pretty much get it to look like a brush job. But I'm used to holding a brush, so I keep going back to that. Now, I did commercial art for when I first got out of college. First of all, I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree that I got in the 70s. Yep, it's a long time ago. And right the last year before I graduated, I had a art class, technical drawing, I think it was, class, and the teacher asked who would like to submit their work to a company in Ohio. Now, they were going to have a business job fair, and this company was coming to the job fair. and they would set up and then look at your portfolios, and they were looking for an airbrush artist. Well, the teacher that was doing this class also taught the airbrush class that I was in, and I'd been in it for a couple of classes at this point, and he liked my work. And so, anyway, they decided they weren't coming to the job fair. And we're in Kentucky. I forgot to mention that. Bowling Green, Kentucky, Western Kentucky University is the college. And it was like 1978. And I was about to graduate. So I was getting a little panicky on like, where am I going to work? How am I going to find a job? It's really tough when you don't have any experience. And I wanted to do commercial art, and I wanted to work at an ad agency. That was my goal at the time. So here, it's like they're coming to me in a way, and the teacher's like, hold up your hand if you're interested, and I'll get back with you later on the details. Who would like to submit their work to this ad agency in Akron, Ohio? And I put up my hand, I look around, and I was the only one interested in doing this. And I was a little surprised because don't you kind of want to jump at any opportunity that comes your way when you have no clue what you're going to do? And maybe they were going to do fine art, but they were in a technical drawing class, which means they might have been wanting, most of the kids, students, probably just wanted to be architects. That's my guess. And do architectural rendering. So they probably maybe weren't interested in this job. And it was going to be airbrush, and maybe they were just playing around with airbrush. They weren't, thinking of making it a career. But anyway, I liked airbrush, and to me, it was a quick way of shading things. I was used to shading things with a pencil, meticulously shading with a pencil, and try to make it look like a photograph. And here we go. We got an airbrush, and you can do that way quicker if the airbrush is working. We'll get into that later. But anyway, I put up my hand, and he says, sure, he'll help me. And so after class, a couple times, he had me, first of all, take slides, color slides of my airbrush work. And some of my paintings, too, probably. I had been doing a few, mostly pencil. And the paintings I'd been doing for college were fine art. So they were more abstract, and they didn't have a commercial art degree at the time, but I did take. Ended up with a minor in mass communications, which was commercial art classes, designing things as if they're going to be advertising something, and that included, airbrush and some other technical drawing classes. Eventually, so. Let's see. So anyway, I take a bunch of slides, and he helped me put it all together in these little holders. Anyway, he sends it off for me to this company, Hitchcock, Fleming and Associates, in Akron, Ohio. I had to look it up on a map because I had no clue where that was. It turns out it's pretty far north, and it's just south of Cleveland. And but I'm like, I'll go anywhere. It's like I really want to get my foot in the door somewhere. And then after that, it's way easier to move to somewhere else once you've established that you can work somewhere and they trust you and everything worked out. You get a good letter of recommendation and all that. So I knew all this. I knew I needed to get started somewhere. So he sends it in. And eventually, I won't go into all the details, but they keep saying they'll set up a, they'll fly me from Kentucky to Akron and interview me. And it's the summer, and now I'm out of college. I'm waiting. I thought I was going to get a job in, I also like cameras, film, things like that. I had classes for that too, to some degree. And I'd always been interested in shooting video, film. So I had waiting for them to do this interview, fly me to Akron. And I have a summer to kind of sweat it out and wonder, what the heck am I going to do if they don't hire me and whatnot? So plan B was I went to the only place around. It was in Owensboro, Kentucky. And there was a TV station, but it was just like starting out. It was pretty tiny. And I would figure, I'll just go and work for them. They tell me at first, we don't have enough work for you. We're small and blah, blah, blah. But then I started thinking, well, I'll just go work like a volunteer. And then eventually they'll need me. That's how you do it. And then, so I was just about to do that when I get the call and Akron says, yeah, we're ready. And they fly me up there. It's like August now of 78. And they fly me up to Akron. And then mainly I'm interviewing, it's a pretty large company. There's probably, I would say, 50 people working there, pretty large building. And they've been there for years. And Akron is into tires. They used to manufacture tires. Goodrich and Goodyear. Firestone was a big one there too. But over the years, a lot of that had died down. And they were still Goodyear. Yeah, they were still around to some degree, but most of the others had moved their offices somewhere else. So Goodyear was one of their big clients. Anyway, this guy, Elno Schwartz. I'll post a picture if I can find it, because I used to take pictures of everything. I still do. But I took a picture of him working. He was like in his 60s, mid-60s, which I am almost there myself now. Yikes. Anyway, I was, right out of college. And he's kind of gruff, to the point. And I'm like, I don't care. He's kind of rough around the edges. And he has no faith that I can probably pull this off. But they didn't have anyone else at the time. I'll get back to that as well. But they didn't have anyone else at the time. So he's like, what the heck? He saw my work. I looked like I was eager. I was. And I would listen to whatever he told me to do, Well, that reminds me now of why I hold the brush like this. Instead of holding it like you're drawing with a pencil. I mean, instead of like you're writing a letter. So you'd hold it like this. He had me right away hold it like this. Well, the reason is that when you're trying to, let's find a piece of paper. See, when you're trying to, let's say you're making a straight line and you're holding it like this, you just want to go that far and then go on. It's hard. It's harder. I mean, I guess you could get used to anything after a while. But he was like, no, you hold it like this. Now you're using your elbow and your arm. You get this flow. And now I can make a line. See, now I can ink these lines like this. Like that. And it's just more of a flow. It's almost like a golf swing where the swing, where you actually hit the ball, is in the middle of the swing. And that's sort of like this. Yeah, you hit the ball, but you follow through. If you don't, then it's not going to stay on course. And I knew how to play golf. I just wasn't good at it. So, but I used to play golf a lot. At least knew that much. So, yeah, you try to do that holding it like this. You're going to get kind of, it's going to be more squiggly. you're using your wrist, so you're only going so far, and then you're running out of wrist action. Where now you've got this flow with the elbow. You can go all the way in these big arcs. Yeah. Okay. End of lesson 1. Anyway, that was the first thing. Oh, I got ahead of myself. Sorry. So they hired me, and I flew up to Akron, and I'm working for this ad agency, and it's the old school days. You know, it's 1978. You're airbrushing things. There's no computers. There's no internet. You don't even have a cell phone. There was one phone in the entire There were 2 stories of this building, mostly the first floor. Everybody was there. It's like a warehouse. So the only part of the upstairs was rooms. So it's one big 2-story box, basically. And there were a few other, there were a couple other rooms in the back because they had a photographer back there full time. We'll get to that later also, because I did a painting of him on his motorcycle. I'll pop it up here maybe if I get if I really want to turn this into something worth watching. I will add some stuff like that. But anyway, you can see while I'm telling you these crazy stories, which you can always just turn the audio off, forget it, and listen to music and watch me ink this, Dr. Peepers. I pretty much have the light source coming from the top. Yeah. And on this, I'm debating about this collar. I kind of like the way it's standing out there. So I was going to keep adding a little bit of texture to it. It's got different, it's not flat, you know, it's got these different little folds. But I didn't want it to get too lost in the mix here. Mix of other dark areas. Because I tend here lately, I'm still trying to get the rust off of my getting back in art and inking and whatnot. I'm overdoing it. You know, I'm adding too much. I could leave some areas alone and stop noodling it, right? Stop noodling. There I go. See, noodling. But I want some of these areas to go back. This side is going back away. This side is coming up. Pretty happy with what I've got so far. I did kind of want to work on this knee here a little bit. Add some more white because I kind of came over too far with the shadow. I mean, it would be that way because of the maybe not. The knee's out in front of the coat. So yeah, I'm going to put some more white there. But I wanted to see how this coat was going to look. Plus, it's best to work from like up here. I should have done the bird first, but I was more concerned with his face. If I can get his face to look okay, then, you know, I'm onto something here. So I did the face, and that kind of led to me going down here. But I should start up here and work down, because your hand is going to be smudging or potentially smudging. Fortunately, once this dries, it's not moving, you know, with this ink. But you don't want to lay on it very long. I'll probably put something under my hand when I go to do the bird, because I do not want to screw up what I've got here. Quickly, while you're here, here's the one I did first. It's okay. I think it's where I over-noodled it. I think it all just becomes too much. I mean, if you color this, you could bring out the face and hands, whatnot. Now on this one, I got him with black gloves because he usually does. Well, about half the time, he does have black gloves on, and I like that look. So he'll have black gloves. And this gun is a combination of a couple of different things that he's used in the past, and we have a lot of props for Dr. Peepers. And let me get back to my story, I guess. So I get the job in Akron, and at my little desk, a drawing board. I have drawing board cubicles, and there were the cubicles where if you stand up, then you can see over them. So, but what I was going to say before is there was only one phone in the whole downstairs, in a hallway where everyone could see you. So if you get it, they would announce, "Hey, Alan, you've got a call." And I would go over to the phone, and then everyone's like, "Well, let's see how long you waste time on the phone." Everyone knows what you're doing. And so you've got to make it quick because you don't want to look like you're just screwing around. So you didn't get many calls to interrupt you. I didn't anyway. But I did, after a year, it was about a year or so, year and a half. I married my first wife, Beth, and she moved up to Akron, but we're really moving up the story. I eventually found out that Akron has the worst weather of the maybe all of the lower 48 states, at least. The least sunshine, for one thing. I quickly realized that winter is pretty rough, and they have a lot of snow that doesn't even have time to melt, so it just keeps piling up. And they put black soot on the roads to kind of help it not turn to ice. Now you've got black snow piled up. Oh, wonderful. And it's not going anywhere. It just keeps, they keep pushing it out of the way. And like I say, you get very little sun. Not the greatest weather. And it got so freaking cold in the winter. One time I had a little Datsun two-door, yeah. Little two-door Datsun. It's like basically the size of a golf cart. And it had a problem with, it kept using up all the antifreeze. And so once all the antifreeze was gone, it would freeze up inside the car, inside the windshield. And you were scraping inside and out. And one time I was so flustered, I went out to go to work, and I saw the antifreeze. So I had extra antifreeze in the trunk because I knew I need to get this problem fixed, and fixed quick. Meanwhile, I just did the quick fix, and that was keep putting more antifreeze in the radiator. Okay, so I go out. It's 0 or negative something degrees, and I see that I need antifreeze, or I'm not going to even make it to work. So I go, well, then no problem. I've got it in the trunk. I go to open the trunk. It's frozen shut. So I can't get in the trunk to get my antifreeze. So I thought, well, I'll just go in the house, apartment, a little studio apartment, and I'll fill it with really hot water, and I'll throw it on the lock and then open the trunk. So I take a saucepan, heat it up, or microwave, can't remember, and I got it really hot, and I ran out there, threw it on the lock, and the water froze before it hit the ground. That's how cold it was. Super boiling water, and it froze and never hit the ground. So I definitely made that problem worse, I think. So I'm not recommending anyone move to Akron anytime soon, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I got the job. I was there for 5 years, and I did work on airbrushing, retouching photos. Well, that was the first thing. I had a lot of tires for Goodyear. And they would take 4 or 5 different angles, photos. they had the straight on the tire, so it's kind of thinner. And then you had 3/4 where you can see part of the wheel hubcap, name on the tire. And then the other opposite 3/4, and they had this straight down where you just had to circle. I don't think they did that one as much. I remember mostly the 3/4 view and the straight on, looking at the tire, like the tread, looking right at the tread. Those two views, definitely. And I had to retouch the whole tire, mainly because you light the rubber tire and it just kind of absorbs the light, so it looks kind of dull. There's no highlights, really. It's just kind of dull, monotone looking. They want it to look cool. So you would take frisket paper, and back then you didn't just buy a roll of frisket paper. Frisket paper is really thin. You can see through tissue, and it's sticky on one side. And you put that down on whatever you're airbrushing. And whatever you do want to airbrush, you cut and pull off. And what you want to cover up, you don't want the overspray to hit. So we would make our own frisket paper. They would have the tissue, they had this big board, and you had this glue, and Schwartz, that was his name, taught me how you take a certain amount of thinner and glue, and you mix that up, and you have it in a jar with a brush, and you brush it over the entire, you tape it down, I think, around the edges, and then you put this glue mixture thinly over the whole paper, and then you had your frisket paper. You turn it back around, and it's sticking on one side. You put it down, and you cut out what you want to airbrush and peel that out and airbrush that, and then cover it back up with paper, whatever, and then cut out another little piece. Time consuming. So he gives me a tire, tells me what to do and what's going to be airbrushed, and it had all the tread on the front, the lines. They call them sipe lines, are the little curving lines that are cut into the tire for the tread. You would have to put down a tissue and trace all those lines, because when you're airbrushing, you're going to airbrush over them, and then you're going to have to hand paint all those lines back in manually. And that's when I got used to using a brush like this to ink anything, because I was used to inking those lines, and they all had to be the same and precise, and all the way up the tire. You put them back in after you've airbrushed the tire different shades of gray. So anyway, my first job he gave me was to work on one of these tires, like a test. And not happy with this leg here. I've already redrawn it a couple times. I will probably end up whiting this part out and the bottom part here, because I'm not happy with it. So let's skip it for now. I'll do the leg. And so I spent a couple of days. I put the frisket paper down. I pulled off I traced the whole sight line thing. That takes like a half a day. It took a couple of days of me doing this the best I could, the way he showed me. And then after you airbrush the tire, get that good. And I looked at other tires they've done before. We have a little bit of a highlight, then you got a gray that goes to a dark, and then there's a little kick light coming up, like it's on the road or something coming up from the bottom, and then you got goes to dark again. So just to make it look cool and more exciting than just all gray. So I did all that, and then I cut out for all the tread, airbrushed all the middle pieces of the tire. And then I hand painted those sight blinds back in. You know, so it would be like, you know, the tire treads are all going. They're all going like this. And they all had to be the same. And then you would go, you know, they go up. And he would do it really slow and meticulous. And now they're going another direction. And he would just do that all day. Pretty much. And then you get the whole tire back. It looks really cool. And then I take this and I show it to Elno. And he looks at it for a couple of minutes. And then he takes the photo and rips it in half. I've spent, at this point, you know, like 2 days. And I think it looks, you know, pretty awesome. He just tears it in half and says, nope, not going to work. And I'm like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, when I'd cut out the big chunks of the tire, you know, to airbrush, because there's a shadow under, you know, in between the chunks. You don't need to airbrush, or you do that later, another frisket. But anyway, when I was cutting all this stuff, I had cut just a little fraction, maybe too far out on some of my cuts, you know. Just a little bit too much. And he said it would show up when they photograph the tire, rephotograph it, and to try again. So here I go and start all over again. Anyway, he turned out, I just did whatever he told me to do. But later, after, you know, a few months, whatever, they go, well, you can do it. You know what you're doing. Here's a stack, and they're on. Okay, my battery ran out, and we're back. Okay, first I gotta apologize because I'm not used to inking and talking at the same time. So that's why I'm going so horribly slow on my on the inking. But maybe if I get used to this, I'll do more of these. We'll see. So anyway, let's get back to it. Thinking of have my drawing pins. Try this. I have this little Faber-Castell F. It's like a little box of these. Let's see. That's not it. No, that's not it. Hold on. Okay. Here's the package. Faber-Castells. I'm using F. It's somewhere in the middle of these fine points. Then we have the brush, 3 brush ones, and then this looks more like a markers. I'm trying different pens. I've got some on order. I haven't used these much either. I used to use a Roto Ring, I think it was called. Mechanical pen. Had cartridges. These were quick to get back into the swing. There's a bunch of straight lines here, and I usually would use a straight line, but here we go. Let's just do just get it started. I just made up a good deal of this gun anyway. It doesn't have to be any particular gun. Just look steampunk. And if you're not clear on what steampunk is, you can of course research it online, but my take on it is Victorian era, which is the 1800s, mid 1880, somewhere in there. It doesn't have to be precise, but just like Victorian era, where you're kind of dressed up, like those Dracula movies. Pretty much what was that? It was a TV show, Wild Wild West. Okay, a lot of people might be able to remember the Wild Wild West movies, and there was a TV show years ago. I want to say 60s. In the 60s, I used to watch it. And in the movies, especially, they made it more of a steampunk theme, like one of the movies. They're being chased by this big robot. He's made up of all these gears and brass, and that is basically steampunk. You've got the goggles, like Dr. Peepers here. You have goggles, protect your eyes, but it's just a common steampunk thing to have gears, goggles. Time travel is involved. It's if you look it up, it's going to tell you it's based on a couple of old movies, and it's where you've got the Victorian era, but those things that they invented back then with brass and steam and gears can do even more. It's a fantasy time period. And it's like this gun is all rigged up with lights and hoses and whatnot, and it's made out of brass and wood, and but it can shoot lasers, for instance. And they would have time travel. These machines might have a big propeller blade on the back of a wooden chair, but it supposedly can take you into the future or the past. And if you go to their steampunk conventions, and you can see these machines people have made, and they give them crazy names, creative names, and say they can do this or do that, and they give themselves creative character names. It's a lot of fun, actually, and it's cosplay, but you're usually making up your own characters. And Dean here is Dr. Peepers, and I've taken photos. I think it was around 2011. Excuse me. I do not have the virus yet that I know of. I have no symptoms. Anyway, I've been self-quarantined, you might say. Anyway, just to be safe, except for yesterday, Victoria Bearden and I went grocery shopping. Braved the great outdoors. We went to 3 different places. I have a video of that too. On wherever you see this video on YouTube, you'll see my channel, Allen Freeman. There are other Allen Freeman channels I've noticed, because I can't just put in YouTube/Allen Freeman. I get somebody else. So I'm still trying to figure out what unique name they have given me, because I keep looking into that, but I haven't figured it out yet. But if you do search ALLEN, FREEMAN, you'll get a couple of different people, but you will get me. Now, if you go to Facebook, I'll have a link to this video there. That's probably where you found it. There it's www.facebook.com/ALLENFREEMAN 007. And here, let's quickly show me, or part of me. It's not going to let me. Anyway, I wanted to show you my shirt, because this is 007. I don't think you can see it, but okay. We'll get to that later. Let's go back to normal. Okay. This light, is it? It's already on bright. Okay. There we go. Anyway, you can see I'm just trying to get some lines going here, get some things going. Let's get his thumb in there. And I'll take the brush and give him some different line weights, but I thought I would just cut to the chase here and get a start. Get a start going so you can see what it's going to be. I could probably zoom in on some of this when I'm post-editing. Maybe I can save it and you can see a little better. Some stuff that I'll work out if I do more of these videos. I'll figure it out. Right now, you're guinea pigs to my process. Yeah, I'm just going to figure out what I'm going to do. What am I going to do to the middle of this gun? I've gone far enough probably with this goopy pen. It's just not giving me the look I want. So let's go back to the brush. I have one brush I'm using for white when I try to clean up and fixed up this. I tried to clean up his shoe. Here's a zoom in. I used a little white out on there to fix it up. But I use a different brush because it's hard to clean it completely out. If you see close here, you can see the one on the right is my white only for white. And then this is for I've got this little protector on there, and then I put it on the back so I don't lose it. There. Came with the brush. And the brush also comes in this tube. That's pretty cool. Series 7. Mainly because these are like 15 to 20 bucks a piece. Yeah, but they last. They're worth it. You'll get other brushes and you'll do half of what I've got here and they'll be done. But this one I might be able to do 4 or 5 giant paintings before the brush just gives up. I used to use these at the ad agency, Hitchcock, Fleming and Associates. And that's where I got used to this. And I could use a 3. Number 2 is sort of in the middle there. Number 1's really fine. Number 2's pretty fine. 3 is fine. I mean, it's good to use. And 4 is starting to get a little big for me. So anyway, 2 is a nice compromise. 2 or 3, you're good to go. Just go online. Dick Blick's, any of those. There's a few other cheaper websites where you can get art materials. I think they have these at Michael's too. I'm not, probably do. Every time I've tried any other brush, no matter what it cost, it just won't hold up. Like the Winsor Newton Series 7 Red Sable. I think it's Sable here in this thing. Okay. Or at least it used to be. They may fake it. I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's the real thing. That's why it costs a little more. but I just got used to it. I mean, anything you use, you just keep using it, you're going to get, better and better at knowing how to control it. Let's see. I got to figure out. His glove is going to be black. So it's got these little creases that are going to show up. Mostly black with a few creases to show it's a glove. And it's under the gun. It's going to be pretty dark anyway. I don't like the handle of this gun that much, but what could I do? Give it more of a bend there and fill this in quite a bit. Mainly you just keep trying to decide where the light is coming from or what's blocking the light. And I like to leave this a little highlight on the back end, like he's got a little glow coming up from underneath. That just gives a little extra, makes it just look a little more exciting, you might say. So I tend to do that. I'll give a little underlight. It's like it's bounce light off of whatever's below him. It helps that I switched to photography for like 10 years and was doing mostly that and less art. But it all helps. I mean, because then I learned how to light people and how the light affects the skin, whatnot, and what I liked or didn't like of the lighting. And so I can kind of start incorporating that into the art as well. Eventually, once I get back into the groove. Now these fingers are all black gloves too. So it's going to be mostly black. Just a few of these creases coming in. Yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah, let's do this. Give it some weight on the backside. You have to concentrate on the shapes. Like these little round fingers. Now the fronts could be blacked in, and then you get a little crease. You're gonna have some crease for where the knuckles are. I mean, this stuff looks like, oh, it looks so simple. Well, at least they're given, the more thought you can give to it, the more realistic, the more you can pull it off. And the illusion that those fingers don't have much room to work here with the fingers, but anyway, you get the idea. And then I try to leave that little highlight on the back. Let's see, I was going to just darken the back of the gun handle. But then steampunk, you have all these little rivets. It's like it's brass, and these rivets are holding the brass on. Let's give it could give it like a little fancier. That's another thing with the steampunk stuff. It's like back in the day when they cared more about crafting things. They give it a little extra, like they were proud of it. Yeah, I'm sure you still see things handmade, especially nowadays, that give it that little extra design. Make it look better than anyone else. Just try to stand out. Let's see, I was thinking, try to remember what a handle looks like. And sometimes it's gridded off, like a grip, so you can get a good grip on it. Next time, if you want to revisit me, we'll start with the pencil. We'll start with the idea of the art and, what we want, and then, or what I want, and then we'll do the pencil. You can watch me. And then the inking. So yeah, I start out just a loose sketch and then build it up a little, but I don't want too much pencil. Then it's a lot more to erase off of there later. So I'm just trying to get the general shapes, and then I'll work in it. And then when I ink it, I can get crazy. Even though, like I said, I've been over noodling things probably. It also depends if it's going to be colored or not, and I haven't really thought about that. This magazine is actually going to be, we can do color. So I'm going to a lot of extra effort here that I probably wouldn't need to color it. I mean, actually, a lot of this could just be an outline, and then when you color in, you add all this subtle shading and whatnot that I'm doing with the inking. I just want it to look really cool by itself, I think, right now. And then I'll probably, if we make it a cover, whatever, I think some of the book we're going to leave black and white, and then some we'll color. Just whatever. It's going to be a little of everything. Let's see if I give these little curves here. Now we got like barrels going on, except the top's not going to jive. I'll have to white out a little of that to fix it. And then we can, if you give it a little, see, I got the light coming from his side. And now I can make these look rolled. They're rolling around like shells, cartridges of some sort. Like I say, it's steampunk future. Well, it's like you're back in 1880, but there's all these inventions. It's like everything stayed looking like the Victorian era, with fancy couches and the long coats. Like those Sherlock Holmes also movies are like that. The ones with Robert Downey Jr., Jude Law, I think that, yeah, they had a couple of those. That's also verging on steampunk. But especially those Wild Wild West, where they had the creatures. The evil creature was all gears. We're really getting into steampunk on that one. Gears and brass. Lights, like these would be some kind of lights. It would be like an old radio. It's like it's made out of old... It could even be in the 1910, 1920. It's not that precise, but if you start getting into the like World War II era, then they call it diesel punk. Diesel punk. Now you've got these mechanical gas masks, more yeah, it's more like World War II looking era, but still fictional to the point where things can do things that they normally couldn't do. Like, you usually can't make a submarine out of wood and brass and have it work, but the movie 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, there's two movies that they all say that steampunk is sort of based on, and it's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea with that submarine. It does all these crazy things you could do in a submarine now, but it's made out of brass and wood and tubes. And And the other movie is H.G. Wells' Time Machine. And that's where you've got the science fiction of 1800s, but you can build a freaking time machine. So you've got that future-ish thing going on. Fantasy. It's a lot of fun. And there's a lot of people have their own outfits. And you can see here I printed out a few pages of Dr. Peepers, and I was just so I could just kind of remind myself of what his costume looks like. I'm not drawing any of these particular poses, as it turns out, but so I'm finding a new pose elsewhere, like Deadpool picture, etc. But then I'm trying to look off of this for where all his cool stuff. You can see this gun that he used to have. That one. Pretty cool. Eventually fell apart, unfortunately. A lot of these props were not meant to be taken out in the field, run around, moving around a lot. Now, I love his, he's got this mechanical arm. I got to do something where the next drawing I do is going to have something to do with that mechanical arm showing, because you can't see it in this shot, this angle that I picked. But I took these photos different places. This is over like a period of like 9 years, 9 years of photos. Here's a big one, a bigger one. And I could see the curves, and the gun here is similar to the one I added here, where it's got the big barrels. And this gun we still have, yeah. And that's a prop I bought 6-7 years ago, something like that. It's a lot of fun. You got to research steampunk. Oh, one more. Here's another. I was looking at all the gears and things he's added to the costume. And I helped it originally when we came up with the idea for Dr. Peepers, and we were naming him, and I had already bought this hat. It was like on clearance at I was at the mall somewhere. It was on clearance. And I didn't know why. I tend to buy things that I think would be a cool prop down the road. And I did use it. We had a few models that wore the hat. Now, I think the hat reminded me of, I always liked the band T-Rex with Mark Bolan in the 70s. And there's a cover. It turned out the photo was shot, Mark Bolan wearing the hat like this, by Ringo Starr. Took the photo. I thought that was cool. Anyway, I remembered all that, and I saw that hat. I just thought, oh, cool. So I bought the hat, and then Dean was over my house, and at the time I had my studio in the condo. Well, it wasn't a condo. It was just an apartment at that time. And I turned the living room, part of the living room, into a studio. I had a backdrop. And I'd just gotten these new lights in, 3 or 4 of these Alien B, they're called, lights, strobes. And he was there, and we're like, hey, let's do something. I want to use these lights. So he put on this hat, and I don't know where he got the goggles. Well, I used to have a lot of props laying around. Anyway, I did have a lot of props even then, for photo shoots. And so he has these goggles, and I'll pop up a picture of what I'm talking about. And I took this, it became like his iconic look, and I worked on the photo that I took of his face, and he kept, to get in the character, he kept saying all these funny things and making these faces. He ended up making face sort of like Clint Eastwood, and but he was saying stuff like, "You damn dirty apes," and make my day, that kind of stuff. And getting that funny look, like serious look on his face. And so I took one of those, and I worked on it for like 5 or 6 hours, which usually I didn't take that kind of time. But I added all these on his face. It's just his face big, and he has the hat, the goggles, and then I just started adding all these other things on his hat and skulls and just photoshopping the heck out of it. And we have it hanging in the living room here. We share a house here in Oceanside with our friend Julie and Dean's son Paul. It's a big house. Anyway, we'll get into all that some other time. So anyway, I was telling you about my first job out of college. The ad agency. I'm not totally happy with this either. Let's see. Maybe I should just less noodling and more blacks on here. I want to give it a little more solid. Yeah, there we go. But I see I'm going to need some white out here and there, especially up here. I didn't aim to go that dark on the end of the gun. It also helps to keep turning the image to where my hand can easily do whatever I need to do. If I need to do a certain curve, and it's easier this way, I'll turn the page around. So right now I don't even have it taped down, so I can get to where I want to get. Yeah, it's starting to work. Kind of like the little extra I started adding there. Hopefully I'll keep filming long enough to, well, every time I come back to this, I'll just start filming some more and I'll piece it all together. So you can see how it turns out eventually. I'll just blacken this in. Let's get on with it. Now this is where his finger's coming through the trigger. It's going to get confusing if I keep blacking everything in too much. I do need to blacken that in. I'm just trying to keep things clear. It's probably not working, but yeah, these little design squiggles are kind of neat. And that's what it would be. You would have weapons back then, they would be all ornate with all this extra squiggle because it's Victorian days. Let's go some more. Just got these crazy little designs. I'm not sure about here. I want to make clear that this is going up at a different angle. Yeah. You can see why some people would work like, I'm doing this just a little larger than it'll end up. Probably a 20%, 30% larger than when it gets, I don't know, it could be more, 40% larger than it's going to be. But I could see the advantage of working even double this, to get a bigger sheet. And then you can noodle around with some of these things. And then when you shoot it down, it just looks super tight, like you were a genius. But that's what they do with the real comics, published comics. They used to be, I want to say, 12 by 18. But somewhere in the, I don't have the details, somewhere in the 70s, I'm going to say 80s, they went to a smaller, it's more like 11 by 17. And they found out that when they went a little smaller with the originals, that saved money on all the production. When they had to make negatives and all this jazz for printing, it saved them a lot of money. Just going that much smaller. So now they're more like 11 by 17. Let me see. Too much, unfortunately, it's too much trouble to keep moving my GoPro up and down. I've got it rigged up here on a stand. Anyway, here's an original page from Sensational Spider-Man. And see, it's a little 11 by 17 is the actual image area, I think. Pretty sure, you know, the image area of this. This was from I think it was 1997. Rich Case, the artist, not well known. I think he just did a few. This was like a backstory in Sensational Spider-Man. Original pages like this cost a fortune if the artist is well known. I mean, the art is great. I mean, and this is a great page. You still got anytime you've got Spider-Man in every panel, and there he is, and then here he is down at the bottom. It's going to be worth more. But again, it's Sensational Spider-Man from 97. It's issue 17, page 20. That's what they've got here. And his name, he wrote Best to Lawston. Rich Case. I got this on eBay, so I didn't get this originally from the artist. He was nice and gave it to someone or sold it to someone who decided to put it immediately on eBay. Who knows? Well, not immediately. I mean, it's 1997. Anyway, I don't have a lot of originals. I used to have a few more of other published comic books, but stupidly sold. I had a cover. Amazing Spider-Man cover from the 80s. I sold it. I bought it for $85 and sold it for like $200 or $300, and now it's worth maybe $8,000. Oops. Okay. Anyway, here we go. It was a Ron Friends. Any of you comic people out there would know, especially Spider-Man collectors, whatnot. Okay, here we're back. I'm trying to decide what to do here with the bottom of his. I think I'm going to make it look like it's going to recess there. I can darken this part a little bit. Put some lines here. It's best to take it slow and figure it out. I can darken this, and then I'll darken this opposite. I don't know. That's not bad. No, I don't like that. I'm going to blacken that in. Just give a little something extra, not a lot. Let's see, what have I done here? Yeah. May have lost that thumb there a little bit. Okay, at least we're getting somewhere. Let's go back with this. Let's just noodle it a little more. Not bad. Not bad. I can darken this. I want the underneath of his hand. Yeah, I might take some white out and just separate a little more here, and maybe the top of those fingers, just so they stand out a little more. And here, I will add white across the bottom to separate. Yeah, try not to have to white that much. It's a pain, unless you do it in Photoshop, but I'm trying to make the art look good on its own, and who knows, frame it, hang it up somewhere. But yeah, if I was to scan this and then fix these little spots with white in Photoshop, it's way easier. but then the original doesn't look as good. So it's compromise there. But now we're at the bird. It's the dragon rabbit. Let's just get on with it, because I'm not used, like I said, I'm not used to talking while I'm inking, so it's really slowed me down. But at least I got the pistol done somewhat. Oh yeah, and I have this eraser, kneaded. It's called a kneaded eraser because you're kneading it like dough. It's just like a silly putty. Comes in a square or like a little rectangle, and then you do this. The more you knead it and move it around, the cleaner it gets. See, this one's pretty clean. I haven't used it that much. But see, it if you don't get too rough with it, see, it's taking the pencil off, but not the ink. And that's what you want. You don't want the ink to be coming away. So see, it's cleaning up a little of the edge where I didn't ink exactly on the pencil. There we go. Yeah, it's working. Try not to erase on these super solid areas black, because it might dull that down a little too much. So I just try to lightly get rid of the pencil on the edges. You can even get these, it's like a little tin thin thing with little, I don't know what you call it. It's like a template. It's got holes and rectangles and stuff cut out of it, out of this little piece of tin. And you lay it on something, and you could erase just what you won't be erasing all around, just in the area that's cut out on the tin. I haven't seen those in a long time. I don't even know what they're called. Okay. Yeah, this foot has got problems. So I'm going to wipe that out, and then I'll look at my original, which was, where'd it go? I've lost it. It's gone. Huh. Oh, it's way underneath. Okay, I got it. You can see the foot is way different. I had it way better when I penciled. I don't know what happened. When I inked it, I lost consciousness or something. But I'm going to make it look more like this foot, but not as big. This leg, my critique with this art, I mean, the art is great, especially this is a little fuzzy version printed off my phone. But his hand is way too big. It's more cartoony on this hand. This is more realistic. And then you get down and it's like a cartoony foot here. To me, it's too, and plus it's too big. I mean, it's okay to have this foot, it's in the foreground. It's coming out at you. It's fine. This leg is going away and getting away from you. It's the same. It's just a little smaller than this one. It should be even smaller. So I did try to do that. I did try to make mine a little smaller than this one. A little more in proportion to what I think it would be, but I lost the shape. I lost the shape of the foot. So ignore that part for now. I'll fix that later. But let's get on to the bird. Let's get on to the bird is the word. I don't blame anyone for cutting out of this video now. Oh my God. He's rambling. And he can't even keep the picture up in the camera. Oh my God. Okay, but anyway, I always have this little area I can just sharpen my brush. Yeah. Okay, let's start in this is a dragon wings. And this is his wings coming down here. So let's start there. And they wouldn't be perfectly straight because he's like organic creature, right? And then he's got these wispy hair balls. Wispy hair balls, and they go with a couple of little pieces that go out even further. Yeah. And then these are like leather-ish wings. It's like the inside of the wing. This is part of his tail. Can't see much from this angle, but his tail is it's all furry too, so we have to keep giving these little fur lines to everything. And so I'll dip it in the ink and then I'll give it a point here. Let's go here. Okay. Sound effects help. Always help. So this is just some of his hair here, so we'll just give it a little hairy lines and keep him a little separated from his arm. I got a little too dark right there, but whatever. Now, on the end of his tail is like at the end of his wings. We've got these little fur balls, just little wisps of, and they kind of come to a point, and then they have this little end that comes and juts out. There we go. We're getting there. We're getting there. And just the more hairy-ish, and the hair is sort of out of control. It's hard to see. It's hard to see, especially in this shot. He's kind of, the wind's got it blowing the hair all around. And he doesn't always have the bird on his shoulder. But here he does. In my other drawing I did, you can see the bird. It's pretty much the same angle. Oh well. His face is a little more side. You get a little more of the side of his face. But anyway, he's just a big puff of hair. And here I even added maybe his bony arms are in the wings, you know. I think in the actual model, it's just leather wings. Because his feet, well, he has feet too, and they're hanging onto the shoulder. It's kind of fun because he really has this puppet, and when Dean dresses up as Dr. Peepers for events and walks around, the kids love it because there's these cables that run from the bird down inside of his coat, and he can pull these cables, and that makes the bird's head move around and set up a little bit, move around. And the kids just freak out because he looks real anyway. But when he starts moving, that does it. They either want to pet him, hold him, or they want to run away. They're not sure. But since the parents aren't freaking out and running away, that, you know, they're like, makes them braver. And they're like, okay, I'll check it out. But once he started wearing Driggin, the dragon rabbit, he started getting a lot more attention, it seemed, at events. Let's just keep going with the bird. Let's do something here. Let's get going. Let's get going, baby. So see, I can just break this up a little bit. This shouldn't have been too uniform because he's an animal. He's just an animal. And he's got these little wisps of hair. And then let's try not to be too uniform with this wingage. And these are just, I'm trying to make this, let's see. It's just a lot of hair, so it's tricky. Maybe that's why I saved him to last, too. Tricky, tricky, tricky. And I can lighten up the pencil a little so it won't be as much erasing needed. You got to make sure the ink is dry, whatever you've just done, so it won't smudge. Sorry, this video is taking too long. You got to be dedicated to watch all this, that's for sure. Okay, let's get on with it now. Yeah, if I was real smart, if I was super smart, I would take a picture and put my hand That's why I should have started at the top and worked my way down. But, you know, if you're inspired, I was inspired to do his face first, blah, blah, blah. Now, I got to make sure I don't keep my hand laying on this. It should be okay because the paper has a little bit of a tooth to it. I can post under this video what the paper is, a big pad of paper, and I ripped it out of there, you can see. And it's even got a perforated edge, so I can easily take and pull off this part, yeah, like that when I'm done. So it's kind of neat. And it's thick enough to where it's not coming through. It is coming through. Or I use the Sharpie. There. It doesn't matter because I don't have anything under it that I care about. But that's another. If I did this in a notepad, you got to be careful. That's going to bleed into the next image and screw it all up. Don't have to worry about it if you've got one single sheet like this that you're working on. And plus it's easier to move around when I'm inking different angles. All right, I'm going to cover up some of this. I wish I could get this closer, but I will just do that at post and zoom in on it. Okay, so now let's see what I can do. Got a little bit of a glare on the pencil. Okay, I'm going to do his eyeballs. They're just these disc shapes. And then this one's at a weird angle, a little more of an angle. See, I can use the paper for keeping my point. Get the point? Yes. Okay. And his eye is like it's like a dragon eye. Sort of like that, like a lizard. Okay. Let's give it a little bit of something. Now it's got all this hair. You just want to suggest it. Suggest that there's hair coming out. And this is where it just gets freestyle. Just imagining the big puff of hair. And it's coming off his face. All right, he's got this beak. Let's go. I gotta keep remembering that he's like organic, so he can't be smooth like everywhere else in the image. He's got this almost like mechanical looking pieces on his face. This company, they set up at Ren Fair every year. Well, not this year because everything's closed because of the coronavirus. And they just postponed Ren Fair till next year. Anyway, I was going every year, a couple times. It's pretty much every weekend from middle of April to middle of May, something like that. So it was coming up. And I already had a ticket. Anyway, Ren Fair, they all dress up. Knights, fighting, princesses, kings, servants, peasants. It's all there. And they get into it. You talk to them, they act like they're back in 1700s. They'll ask me, what's that mystery box I'm using to steal their image? Things like that. And anyway, there's a company there. Can't remember the name offhand. And they hand make these dragons in different sizes. This was probably the largest one. And they have smaller ones. And they make these creatures, puppets. Now he's got these teeth. Not friendly. They are not friendly teeth. These look like a lizard, dragon, rabbit fur. No one's going to ever watch all of this episode. That's okay. I don't blame you. I wouldn't either, probably. Now he's got a row of upper teeth, and they're just coming down here in between, I guess, for the sake of getting on with this. Let's add a little more face. In real life, he looks more dangerous than what I'm doing here. He's a little, he's a little funny. Okay. He's having a good time, though. He's happy to get out of the house, I think. Now, let's do some furage. Anyway, people watching this video, most everybody probably already knows who Dr. Peepers is, has seen him dress up Alley Art Fest a few years at Vista. Definitely. Shot him there. Other people in all kinds of costumes. Anything goes. And definitely Gaslight Gathering. That's a steampunk event, so of course he's going to be there. And a lot of very interesting costumes. Steampunk-ish. But you have to research steampunk. You'll see photos if you're not familiar. Now, I first heard about it. I had a meetup group, meetup.com, where people join, and then I would set up photo shoots. And the very first one, 2011, like August 2011, the very first group shoot, we had, I had this lady helping me, Kat. She helped me start the group up. She's a model. And she had her daughters and her daughter's friends, who I ended up shooting for years as models. And the first one was steampunk, 2011. Wow. And we went to a train station, because that's, we've got the old rusty trains and whatnot. That's another good place for steampunk, for sure. Anything that looks kind of aged is good. And trains works right in there. So I went to this train station with the old trains and shot, and I might include a few of those shots in this, pop them up while I'm talking here. Keep your interest. Let's see, have I lost control? Maybe. I don't want the fur to get too dark down at the bottom, but a little separation from the feet that are hanging on. He's got like knuckles on his feet. Yeah, this is helping. The more I kind of give it some dark underneath, makes him a little more solid. Let's just go ahead and do that. Yeah. Now his other wing is coming out like this and going up. Could be rough because he's He's alive. It's organic. He's not that smooth. Okay. We're getting somewhere. Yeah, baby. Now the inside of those wings are like a darker leather, so I may just make them darker. If I get too caught up in the detail on the bird, then you're going to lose out looking down at Dr. Peepers. The bird is secondary. So I may just darken this. Now he's got this big kind of head, is just fur, like a rabbit fur. And Dean gave like some backstory to Dr. Peepers, where he met, found Driggin and all this jazz. It's pretty cool. We should somehow work that into our comic book. Some history of Dr. Peepers. He's a demon fighter. He goes in past and future, wherever he has to go, and fight demons. He's a demon hunter. I mean, somebody's got to do it, right? I think he's perfect for that. This time I'm just going to darken in a lot of this. Boop, 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 boop. It's a lot of noodling goes into this, huh? And I can just try to give it a little. The end of my brush is acting a little stupid. Okay. There we go. I'm going to darken most of this up. Separate it from his face a bit more. Yeah. Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. Starting to happen. It usually doesn't take me this long. But like I said, I am not used to trying to think of something interesting to say, or just to say anything while I'm working. But hopefully I'll get used to that if I make some more of these videos, if anyone cares to see the process. Now I want to separate the bird from the hat, so that's when you get the nice highlight on his hat is helping me. See, if I'd have brought that to the edge, then I'd have a problem now, separating the wing from the hat. But since I already gave it that edge of light, save the day, save the day. Yeah, I'm just gonna, sometimes you can just go, it's getting dry, my brush is getting drier. I could just have more control with the brush, but it's practice. It's whatever you're used to. I mean, like I say, you could take a pen that has a brush tip, but I find those give out on me. They work fine for a while, and then they get all mushy, where the brush lasts longer. Let's just darken that in. I can save some of this with white out. I can give it a little separation on his hat there. A few things I can do later on. Now it's just a matter of, can we keep this looking like fur? Just give it enough furage. Now, and his hair is kind of a medium goldish brown, but he has some lighter areas, and I'm choosing the top of his head as a lighter area. I kind of like giving his face a little separation there from his eyeball. I can give this a little dark. If you don't know what's going on, I like the way this hair is around the edge. It's almost like a gorilla or something. Effect. I'll do that on this side too. I like that because it looks like hair. Yeah, and it separates his face. Otherwise, it would just be a mishmash. That should be a superhero. Mishmash. You don't hear that often enough. Okay, or ever. Give it a little more separate. Yeah, I'm liking that. The more less noodling and more darks. Yeah, it's working good. A couple of these can go in. Yeah, we're getting real close. And then I'll just be worrying about that leg down there. Can I save it? Can it be saved? I don't know. Hopefully. But I'm thinking I'm going to take a break because anytime I think I can't keep the slow pace that I want to keep, it's time to take a break. Because you don't want to rush any of this, especially around his hair. And I can get dark when I get down to his feet. Yeah. I could go on underneath. Yeah. I like that because it's going up underneath his face. Let's just go ahead and these feet get just a little bit of an edge. Oh my goodness. Just a little bit of a curve to those toenails. Hopefully you can see what's going on here. Like I say, I'm going to zoom in more when I edit this on the area of interest. That'll help. Oh yeah, he's got these fuzz balls. And then they go fuzzy fuzz. Let's see if we can just get this part done. So anyway, I find it interesting that people introduce me, they know me, and they go, "It's Allen, he's a photographer." Because most people know me more from photography, because once I moved to California, I was pretty much just doing photography. And I do all my creativeness in Photoshop. That's where my creative outlet was photoshopping things, adding things in. There's a lot of art involved, but it's hidden, it's like a special effects. If it's working, if it works, they don't notice that you added a bunch of stuff later, enhance this, darken that, lighten that. They just go, oh, yeah, it's fine. I started adding a page on Photoshop, in Facebook. I have a page, and I call it Raw Shots Revisited. And that's where I would go back into my old photo albums, photo files, and I would take a new photo and I would retouch it. And then people had never seen that particular shot. Something similar probably, but they hadn't seen that particular shot before until I revisited the old files. Anyway, I made a page showing, similar to that, but showing before and after. Most people haven't seen it, I don't think. But I go into detail of what I did to the photo, and I show before and after next to each other. And it wasn't until I did that some people realized you didn't just push the camera shutter and you're done. 75% of the image came together after you took the photo. It just gave me the idea of what I wanted to do later in Photoshop sometimes. Sometimes it's just enhancing this and darkening that, lightening that. But sometimes I get carried away and I'll try to pop up an image from what I'm talking about. Like I had one where the model, Caitlin, was underwater and she's holding a light that had underwater light. And she's swimming with like a snorkel goggle thing. And then I added to the photo, I took out the light she's holding and I made it a spear gun, like a modern spear gun, which I had never seen before, but I researched and found they have a spear gun that's like a Gatling gun. You know, it's got like multiple, you can shoot multiple spears out of the thing before it's empty. Anyway, she's holding this thing, and this massive shark is about to take a bite. It's trying to come at her. She's being pretty cool, though, and aiming her spear gun at this massive shark. He's all kind of chewed up. And then I have other sharks in the background and a treasure chest or some other things. I just added all this stuff later to it. So that was my creative outlet. So a lot of people thought that, well, he's a photographer, right? And then in my, they didn't know, but I'd been doing art since the 70s, commercial art mostly for the ad agencies, and I did stuff for comics too. Fright Night. I did stuff for Now Comics. Some of the covers mostly for them, airbrushed. And that was stuff I did for fun. I mean, they did pay me, but it was a lot of fun. Tight, super crazy tight deadline stuff. Where did I go wrong on this eyeball? It should be more of a less round. Okay. I'm starting to get a grip on the hair, I think, where it's looking like hair. I hope. Let's just give a few more noodles into the wing here and blend that in. Let's just go all the way with this. Yeah. Goodbye. Okay. Well, if I can just hang in there long enough to get this wing done. Again, you can see where it helps to have the Dr. Peepers have that highlight under his arm to separate the dragon wing from him. And the dragon wing is behind him, so I'm giving it a little more noodling. Don't do a lot of cross hatching. That gets really complicated and it turns to mud when you shrink this down to be printed. You're going to lose. Like when I put the grid on the handle of the gun, it's real tricky because that's going to get really tiny and it may be lost. So you got to think of that kind of stuff when you're inking. I mean, nowadays the printing can hold the detail a lot better, at least on the better paper, and we're going to have the best kind of slightly glossy paper, so it'll still hold all these details pretty good. Pretty darn good. And I forgot what I was talking about. If I can just get the wing done, and then I'll take a break. Yeah, I didn't want to go solid black on this, but I do want to show that it's back there in the background. Now, stuff like this is where you practice. If you just practice making all these lines next to each other, that kind of stuff. You just do page after page of just practicing. Now, when I learn to airbrush, that's what we did at first. We just had a page with a bunch of big, large grids. And where the two lines came together on the grid, we would just airbrush and try to control the blast of the airbrush on those little circles, little round areas of the airbrush. Like you'd have a whole page of just these, you'd have pre-printed, pre-made up lines that the teacher would have, and they're like this. They'd be larger, though, way larger. And then you would try to airbrush a same area in each one. And that's just getting practice controlling the airbrush and getting used to using it. And he would do a whole page of these little balls that fuzz out around the edge, and then until they all look the same, or best you could. That was just one of the practices I remember to get used to using it. It worked. Definitely worked. Okay. I'm not going to noodle too much more on this. Just a little on the... And it doesn't have to be even on this because it's organic. Organic. Sometimes after you get all this, you can break it up with some other lines, because for all you know, he's got bones or something in that wing. We're not going to get that detailed, but I did on the other one. I tried to suggest that he had some bones of arm-ish in his wings that are moving it. Okay. All right. I like it. I like it. This could be a little better to separate that eyeball. You know, if you stand back, like I just sort of did, everything looks different. And that's when you get an idea for something better to help it. Sometimes after I'll think I'm finished, I'll take a shot with my cell phone, and then it looks way smaller, and then it just looks different. You can see what's not working, what is working. I kind of like the bird now. Yep, we're getting there. If I just hadn't screwed up his bottom leg, we'd be so close. Instead of you break this up just a little bit. And I was thinking of just going in and fill that in. Top of his shoe. Yeah, baby. Yeah. Got to rethink the foot. And I'll be back later. Okay, I didn't take a break. Instead, I redrew his foot. I'm a little happier with it. Maybe I can keep saving it even more when I ink it in, but I do like it better. The bottom foot. And now I'm going to see if I can fix this knee. I think it should be wider here. So I'm taking some white out, graphic white. I have art white. I used to use Pelican white. I was not able to find that. I don't know if they even still make it. But it's very similar to this, close enough. But for years I used Pelican white in a little jar, expensive as hell. Okay, here we go. Yeah, see, we're getting a little more of the... Got to keep that knee shape. There we go. Give it a little more oomph. Yeah, I think so. I hate having to white stuff out on the art, but like I say, I want to, in this case anyway, I want the art to look as good as it can. In case I want to frame it, put it on the wall, inspire me to do more stuff. That's what I've been letting everything discourage me. No, you don't want to do this. You don't want to get back into that, or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hell with it. I'm doing it. It's kind of neat to be able to take some white and go into these little black areas, give it a little something. It's easier than trying to do it originally with the... and leaving these areas with the black. It's sometimes you just go back in if the white is cooperating. It's trying to dry out on me too quickly. There we go. See, the special sound effect is always good. If no one else is in the room, you can do your special effects. Let's add a little highlight on the shoe. Why not? Why the heck not? Okay, I'm liking it. There's a few little things that could be rounder, like his glasses right there. Rounded. If the white would cooperate. It's not. I don't have a fan on, but it's drying out pretty damn quickly. I got white all over my fingers. When did I get so sloppy? That helped. A little bit. Help a little, hurt a little. Oh yeah. Let's see. I was going to touch this up a little bit. Make it look like I had intended to put those in originally that way. Oh yeah. I keep seeing little problems. Like his glove. His thumb. I didn't want it to curve exactly like the other piece there. I wanted it different. And come on down. I can put a little... Oh yeah. And I wanted this sleeve to go on around. Yeah, way much easier in Photoshop to fix things like this. If you don't care what the original art looks like. Yeah. True. It's not quite... My white is not quite covering the way I want it to. Gotta leave it on thick. There we go. Okay. Let's finish the shoe. And yeah, baby. That's what I'm doing. First, always keep the brush cleaned out. So I gotta do that. You don't want it to dry out in the brush, if you can help it. And have paper towels. Yeah, all messed up. Off camera. I'm trying to clean this white off my brush and my hand and everything else. Oh well. I think it's going to stay a bit messed up for now. Gosh dang it. All right, let's go with the black. You really need a little thing of water for the black and for the white separately, because you don't want to screw up the white. You don't want the water to get gray, and then it makes your white gray. It's a problem. It is a problem. Okay, now I'm ready to do some blackage. And if I can get this to work. It's going to be a little tricky because I put some white down and then penciled over it, so it's going to make this difficult. More difficult than usual. Fortunately, it's just the bottom of the shoe. I would not recommend whiting out a bunch of stuff. That's why originally you should sketch the whole thing out, maybe on a tissue. I have a tracing paper. Work out all the bugs, and then you can take a piece of paper, 8x10, whatever. Take a pencil and cover it with graphite. Slide it under your tissue. Trace just the outline or just what you want from your tracing paper, and then when you take it off, you've got your carbon has left this faint outline of what you need, and then you can touch it up a little with the pencil if you want, and then ink it. Boom. Also, I bought a light. They make these really thin little light tables now, little light tablets. It was cheap. It was like on wish.com or something. I haven't got it yet. And then I can, this paper, you can see through it. I mean, that's how I did my original. You know, I took this fuzzy printout. I put it under where I want it on here. And then when you light from behind, I could see through it. So you can see a little bit right there. You can see through it. And I held it up and just did a little bit for the outline. That's all I traced. But if I had the LED tablet thing, I can lay the whole thing on there and then trace my outline. But I only need the outline. I'm making the rest of it all up. I'm not... The tracing was just for the basic pose. Inspiration, you might say, and to keep proportions a little better. So I'm not tracing everything, as you could tell. Okay, here we go. Now, let's see if I can fix the shoe, and then I'll be happy. Let's start with this shape. That's what I had really wrong before. That shape. Because it's the ball of your foot on the inside that's coming out wider. And I could have done better on this foot too, because it should be a little wider coming out on the... See, I could, like here, give it a little more. Because the ball of the foot, it's even more pronounced when he's stepping down on something, of course. I'm trying to make it look like these are treads. You know, he's got these. So, yeah, the more I can give out is where his ball of his foot on the inside there is coming out. And that's what I've got now going on down here. So I'm much happier with this. And then I can go around. And I penciled in where I want my treads. And the treads aren't going all the way to the top. On the side, see the side here, they're coming up in those gaps. So I tried to keep it the same over here. I kind of failed on some of my pencil. Yeah, it gets tiny, so it doesn't really matter that much probably. And the front could just go on around. There's no tread on the front coming down. And this is like my old tire days with treads. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oops. That's starting to go wacky. Okay. A little wacky. See, yeah, there, when I went all the way to the top, I shouldn't have. More whiteout, more whiteout. And then my pencil kind of lost track right there. And this is the big heel section right there. Let's see, what are we doing? Yeah. It's got a little wacky right there. I'll have to white out a little off the top. I'm determined to get this right. Okay. Against all odds. He's even got another little indent here. All right. Okay. I'll just have to fix a little on the edge where that thickness is. I'll take that off by cutting off a little from the outside. Let's see. We can see a little more. I want a little more of a curve up. And then he's got these laces. Just go for it. Laces. Tedious laces. Okay. Lose a lot of brain power on this. Brain energy gone forever. Now let's just keep going with the laces. Let's just keep going this way. And then back that way. And then you notice I stopped talking because I'm concentrating so hard on the laces, on the whatever. Okay. Concentrating. Let's do this outer part. Yeah. There we go. We're getting there. We're getting there enough. I just don't screw it up when I add the darks, because here's the tricky part, because I have that white out under there. Not recommended. Now, if you see original art, and you can see it online from classic comic pages from the past, they use whiteout. Believe me, they used whiteout a lot. So don't be embarrassed. It's just tricky to ink over it when you're making your changes, your repairs. Let's see. Yeah, we just want to kind of go dark on these in-betweens. Give the illusion of shoestrings, right? It's back in the background anyway. I mean, if you're coloring this, you would kind of darken this whole back shoe anyway. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Okay, I think I'm just gonna... And now he's got these straps. And I changed the curve on those two, because that's telling you it's curving around. Then the straps buckle on, but there's like an overhang area. It goes on beyond the buckles. All right, I just gotta keep my head on for a little longer. Let's see, I think I want to keep the light coming from that. Keep the light coming from that same side. And you thought this was going to be easy. No, I didn't. I did not. Now we can send this underneath a little bit more. And on the edge, yeah, there we go. Just give it a little something extra there. This is some kind of ornament, buckles on his belt. I mean, on his boot. His boots have these shiny brass ornamental thingy-bobs. I'm sure they dazzle demons and keep them distracted while he's fighting them. There's got to be a good reason, I would think. Besides, they look cool. He got these boots special online somewhere. They look pretty good. I'm just going to blacken that in. No more screwing around with minutia. I'm not sure about the way I ink this shoe. I think it needs to go way darker and less noodling. It could be just a little highlight. Yeah, I might just add some white and put some highlights on there, because the boot is dark. And then I can just add a little white highlight there. Now the middle of his boot is just, let's just blacken that in. Getting there. We're getting there now. Let's just get this done now. Yeah, I'm liking it. A little cartoony, but it's fun. It's fun. I'm just going to blacken this in right here. Poo, 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 poo. And then I can go choo, 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 choo. Going all the way there. I'm going to go like this and put some shading here. Get on with it. Get on down. Yeah, kind of like that, because it should be mostly dark. We'll just give a little bit of highlight. Sometimes you can put a little, and then I want to send this back too. But your lines should help keep on the curve. His leg's curving back there, so these lines are just helping show it's rolling and rolling. I'm rolling with the shapes. Let's go even further here. Yeah, I'm staying with the curve of his leg. Oh, these can have a shadow too. And then they can go. all the way. Into the darkness. Into the darkness. And these guys, let's just go in the darkness. Into the dark. Yes. One more. Shadow. Darkness. And just less white there. Wow. Yeah, baby. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. I definitely like this one better than the one I did before. I just get a little more of a handle on the inking. I say a little more because it could be always could be better. Yeah, let's figure out this situation. See, it's curving around the sleeve. We're trying to help that. Let's give it a little break up. Little break up on the sleeve. What do we do now? Now I'm debating on what do I put in the background or just leave it. Since this is early on in my comeback period, maybe I should just leave it white. Yeah, I can straighten that up a little bit and this back the way it was. Thank you for watching. I'll post up some other things if you're interested, if anyone cares to see more. And I'll start the next one, I promise, with the rough pencil first, and then work my way to the inking. And maybe I can also speed up the whole process so you don't have to watch forever. Okay, thanks. Bye.